merchant, not a doctor. Our people have waited for vaccines, waited for medicine, waited for mercy. That wait is over. Today, Burkina Faso stands tall. We have signed a $50 billion agreement with India, not to beg but to build. We are constructing the first giant pharmaceutical industry on African soil. This is not charity, this is sovereignty. We will no longer depend on the West for our survival. We will produce our own medicine by our own hands. For our own people, Africa will heal itself. To our partners in India, we say thank you for respecting us as equals, and to the African youth, this is your signal. The future is not imported, it is built here with dignity, with strength, and with pride.
Africa is no longer waiting for the world to decide its future, it is rewriting the script. In a move that stunned global markets, Burkina Faso and India have launched a $50 billion pharmaceutical revolution, a partnership so massive it threatens to shake the balance of economic power across continents. As factories rise, alliances tighten, and global competitors scramble to react, the world is waking up to a new reality. Africa is gearing up to become a pharmaceutical powerhouse. This is not just a business deal, it's a turning point, a leap that could redefine healthcare, reshape trade, and put Africa at the center of the global stage.
The world wasn't prepared for the moment when a landlocked West African nation stepped onto the global stage with a move so bold, so transformative that analysts from New York to New Delhi found themselves scrambling for explanations. In an era where pharmaceutical dominance dictates power, strategy, and influence, a massive $50 billion partnership between Burkina Faso and India sent a shockwave through the global system, a tremor that signaled not just economic ambition, but a new era for Africa itself. The announcement hit global markets like a cinematic twist. Burkina Faso, often overlooked in global industrial conversations, had partnered with India, one of the world's biggest pharmaceutical producers, to build a pharmaceutical powerhouse on African soil. Not a factory, not a regional hub, but an entire industrial ecosystem designed to manufacture vaccines, essential medicines, advanced biotech products, and new generation medical technologies at a scale the continent had never seen. This was not incremental progress. This was revolution. The deal was framed in the language of steel, science, and strategy. At its core, the partnership aimed to create an African-controlled pharmaceutical industry with the technological muscle of India's world-leading drug manufacturers. But the implications ran far deeper: healthcare independence, economic sovereignty, job creation, and geopolitical leverage. Africa would no longer be treated as a passive consumer of global health products. It would produce them, export them, and shape the future of medical access across the global south. From the moment the agreement surfaced, global reactions poured in. Economic analysts highlighted the size of the investment: $50 billion, a figure so enormous that it dwarfed most pharmaceutical projects in developing economies. Trading floors across Europe buzzed with speculation on how the partnership might shift global market shares. Asian commentators recognized that India's entrance into the African industrial landscape was not merely business, it was strategic positioning. And within Africa, the partnership ignited a wave of excitement, hope, and ambition that spread across the continent like wildfire. Burkina Faso, known for resilience and determination, was offering something the world hadn't expected: an opportunity to build the pharmaceutical future of Africa. The location of the megaproject became the center of global fascination. Engineers surveyed vast plots of land where factories, research labs, and distribution centers would rise. Computer-generated models filled international news screens, sprawling industrial complexes designed to rival major pharmaceutical hubs in Asia. But beneath the surface of construction plans and financial charts, the story carried a deeper, almost cinematic weight. For decades, Africa had relied heavily on imports for medicines, vaccines, and medical equipment. This dependence had exposed the continent's vulnerability. During global health crises, Africa waited while other regions supplied themselves first. Medicines were often priced higher, delivered later, or produced in limited quantities. But now, with a $50 billion industrial leap, Burkina Faso and India were rewriting that narrative. The world understood instantly. This wasn't just an economic deal. It was a geopolitical earthquake. Government officials across Europe held urgent policy meetings. Pharmaceutical giants in North America began analyzing how the African-Indian alliance might cut into their market dominance. Trade corridors, supply chains, shipping routes, and investment strategies were suddenly under review. Everyone wanted to know, how would a fully industrialized African pharmaceutical giant shift the economic balance of power? The answer was simple, dramatically. As engineers broke ground, the partnership revealed an ambition that reached far beyond West Africa. Central to the agreement was the creation of research institutions designed to rival global biotech leaders. The plan included vaccine development centers, pharmaceutical testing labs, and technology transfer programs that would allow African scientists to train directly with specialists from top Indian pharmaceutical corporations. This wasn't outsourcing. This was empowerment. Burkina Faso saw the partnership as a turning point, a chance to break the cycle of dependency and emerge as a central force in Africa's industrial future. India saw it as an opportunity to strengthen its position as a global manufacturing titan while deepening economic ties with a continent that represented the next frontier of global growth. Both sides understood the magnitude of the moment. As the world watched, construction zones turned into symbols of modern ambition. Machinery thundered, foundations were laid, and logistics teams coordinated shipments of steel, laboratory equipment, and high-tech manufacturing systems. Technical teams from both countries moved in waves, merging expertise, training workers, and designing systems that would eventually allow Africa to produce pharmaceuticals at a scale once considered impossible. The suspense kept growing. Reporters from international media outlets flocked to Burkina Faso, broadcasting images of massive cranes, futuristic facility layouts, and endless convoys of construction materials. Headlines portrayed the story as the beginning of a global power shift, a collaboration that could potentially challenge long-established pharmaceutical empires. The entire continent felt the impact. Neighboring countries began exploring trade corridors to prepare for the influx of goods that would eventually move across West Africa. African economic blocs viewed the partnership as a catalyst for continental integration. With a pharmaceutical giant rising in Burkina Faso, connectivity became essential. Rail lines, roads, and ports across multiple countries were evaluated for upgrades and expansions. Africa was gearing up for its industrial future. Beyond economics, the partnership carried monumental implications for healthcare. For decades, Africa had struggled with shortages of essential medicines, costly imports, and long waiting periods during global health emergencies. The Burkina Faso, India initiative promised to flip that reality. With manufacturing capacity rising on African soil, vaccines and medicines could be produced locally, distributed faster, and priced more affordably. The dream of African pharmaceutical sovereignty was finally within reach. While the world debated the implications, pharmaceutical companies in multiple regions began acting. Some sought opportunities to partner with the new African-Indian mega-industry. Others quietly feared the competition. The potential ripple effects extended into Asia, where competing industries began recalibrating strategies, and into South America, where governments observed carefully, recognizing similar opportunities for collaboration. The partnership was becoming a model for how emerging markets could reshape global industrial power. As Burkina Faso expanded facility blueprints, Indian pharmaceutical giants sent teams of experts specializing in everything from industrial chemistry to supply chain efficiency. Training programs began rolling out, designed to build a highly skilled African workforce capable of managing complex biotech operations. Young scientists, engineers, and technicians across Burkina Faso applied in record numbers, eager to be part of the continent's most ambitious industrial project. Global institutions responded. Some praised the partnership as a turning point. Others worried about how the shift would affect existing market structures. But none could deny the historical importance of the moment. Africa was stepping into a role it had been denied for generations. Tension built in international trade circles. Would Africa's new pharmaceutical capacity challenge traditional suppliers? Would global pricing models shift? Would the partnership inspire other African nations to pursue similar high-stakes alliances? No one had clear answers, and that uncertainty fueled even more attention. Investors, corporations, and governments all recognized the same reality. This partnership was too large, too ambitious, and too strategically designed to be ignored. With $50 billion behind it, the Burkina Faso, India pharmaceutical revolution signaled a new era in global health, economics, and geopolitics. And it was only getting started. What began as a partnership between two nations was rapidly becoming a continental movement. African business councils, economic organizations, and health agencies aligned behind the project, heralding it as a beacon of technological progress. But the greatest suspense came from global powers, who now watched closely as Africa and India prepared to challenge long-standing pharmaceutical hierarchies. The world was witnessing a transformation, a shift in power, a historic leap, and Burkina Faso was at the center of it. As the partnership deepened, the world began to understand that this was no temporary collaboration. The $50 billion deal represented a long-term blueprint for transforming the health and economic landscape of an entire continent. Burkina Faso had positioned itself not only as a host, but as a leader, proving that African nations could drive mega-industrial projects and compete on equal footing with long-established pharmaceutical powerhouses. The transformation unfolding on the ground was rapid and relentless. Warehouses stretched across newly developed industrial zones, packed with machinery sourced from global suppliers. Teams from India worked side by side with Burkina Faso's engineers, calibrating high-precision equipment and installing production lines capable of manufacturing millions of medical doses per day. For the first time, Africa was building a pharmaceutical ecosystem not as an extension of foreign powers, but as a co-architect of a strategic global industry. The atmosphere crackled with ambition. As construction advanced, new layers of the partnership revealed themselves. One of the most significant components was the establishment of Africa's largest drug research and innovation district, a high-tech enclave filled with laboratories, biotech startups, and research facilities designed to push scientific boundaries. Global observers compared it to innovation hubs in India, Southeast Asia, and parts of Europe. But this one was different. This one was African at its core. The vision extended far beyond manufacturing. Burkina Faso wanted to create a system where African scientists could conceptualize, design, develop, and distribute medicines without relying on external institutions. With Indian expertise flowing into the country, the technological foundation was being laid for breakthroughs not just in traditional pharmaceuticals, but in biotechnology, genetic research, vaccine development, and medical technology. The partnership had become a symbol of global change, a collaboration built on the recognition that Africa was no longer a passive consumer, but a rising force capable of driving global economic and scientific transformation. As the world tried to digest the magnitude of what was unfolding, reactions intensified. In Europe, industry leaders held emergency conferences, questioning how a massive pharmaceutical hub in West Africa might shift supply chains that had been optimized around Asia and the West for decades. Could Burkina Faso become a competitive source for essential medicines? Would African pricing models challenge existing profit structures? Would global health policies need to be rewritten to account for a new center of production? North American analysts were equally captivated. Financial institutions debated whether the African-Indian alliance would influence investment patterns across emerging markets. Reports circulated suggesting that global pharmaceutical giants might relocate or diversify their operations to avoid being overtaken in Africa, where population growth and market demand continued to skyrocket. But perhaps the most intense reactions came from within Asia itself. Countries that once dominated global generics and vaccine production recognized that India's partnership with Burkina Faso could open new corridors of competition or new opportunities for collaboration. Economic strategists debated whether the move signaled a broader Indian strategy to create multi-continental pharmaceutical influence, connecting South Asia to Africa in a powerful industrial arc. Through all the speculation and reaction, one reality remained consistent. This partnership was redefining global expectations. Africa, long underestimated, was now shaping how the future of global healthcare would look, and the world could no longer ignore it. Inside Burkina Faso, anticipation reached unprecedented levels. Economic projections estimated the creation of hundreds of thousands of jobs across industries: engineering, logistics, medicine production, research, transportation, packaging, and supply chain management. Universities began updating curricula to align with the emerging pharmaceutical ecosystem. Technical institutes launched new programs at record speed, preparing a new generation of workers who would serve as the backbone of the continent's pharmaceutical future. This wasn't just economic progress. It was nation-building on a historic scale. Industrial hubs expanded across the country, connected by new transport routes and energy infrastructure. The initiative sparked growth not only within Burkina Faso, but across neighboring countries as well. Trade corridors were strengthened, regional supply chains grew more sophisticated, and interest surged among investors seeking to align with Africa's fastest-growing industrial transformation. As momentum surged, the world watched with fascination. Documentaries, global news segments, and multi-page economic analyses began focusing on the partnership. Satellite images showing the rapid expansion of the industrial zones captivated audiences, serving as proof that Africa had entered a new age of industrial ambition. For many, Burkina Faso became the face of a rising continent, one that refused to be defined by past limitations. International organizations had no choice but to respond. Some pledged support, recognizing the potential benefits for global health access. Others voiced concerns about market disruption and competition. Still, the undeniable truth remained. A new center of pharmaceutical production was rising, and it was rising fast. But the most powerful transformation was the one happening internally, within the African mindset. For years, Africa's pharmaceutical dependency had been a symbol of global imbalance. Life-saving medicines were often manufactured thousands of kilometers away, shipped over long distances, and priced beyond the reach of many communities. Limited production capacity left the continent vulnerable during global shortages. But the Burkina Faso-India partnership changed everything. Suddenly, Africa was taking control of its own health destiny. Hospitals across the continent expressed hope that faster access to essential medicines was finally on the horizon. Governments anticipated significant cost reductions. Public health institutions envisioned a future where Africa would not need to wait in line or depend on a global supply chain that often overlooked its needs. And beyond the practical advantages, the psychological shift was immense. A continent realizing that it could no longer be sidelined in global health strategy. As excitement grew, the partnership began influencing global diplomacy. Countries in Latin America and Southeast Asia took notice, studying how a nation like Burkina Faso could align with a pharmaceutical giant like India to build such a formidable industry. High-level meetings were convened, and economic strategists began exploring similar models of cooperation. A new era of South-South collaboration was emerging, one defined by shared development, technological exchange, and industrial empowerment. The world recognized a pattern. The future of global growth was shifting toward new alliances, new power centers, and new voices. And Africa was becoming one of those voices. Meanwhile, on the ground, the physical structures of the pharmaceutical megazone rose higher each day. Massive bioreactors were installed. Research buildings were fitted with advanced filtration systems. Cold chain storage facilities were constructed with precision to meet international standards. Entire fleets of transport vehicles were purchased to ensure smooth distribution across Africa once production began. Burkina Faso was not simply entering the global pharmaceutical industry. It was preparing to help lead it. And with India's industrial experience woven into the foundation of the project, success seemed not just possible, but inevitable. As the world observed, the narrative took on a cinematic edge. Commentators described the partnership as a bold leap, a pharma revolution unfolding in real time. Animation studios and digital creators showcased visualizations of future supply chains stretching from West Africa to global markets. Social media lit up with discussions about Africa's rising influence and India's expanding global footprint. The suspense climbed even higher when early indicators suggested that the pharmaceutical hub could begin exporting products sooner than expected. Trade experts predicted that African-made medicines might soon arrive in markets historically dominated by Asian and Western suppliers. Competitive pressure mounted. Global pricing structures trembled. Pharmaceutical corporations began revising strategies, anticipating the moment when Africa stepped into the world market not as a buyer, but as a powerful producer. But beyond global implications, the partnership represented something much deeper, a beacon of possibility. For Burkina Faso, this project became a symbol of national resilience and strategic foresight. For India, it became a demonstration of its ability to shape and support global development. For Africa, it became a catalyst for a future defined not by dependency, but by sovereignty, innovation, and collaboration. The story of the $50 billion pharmaceutical revolution spread far beyond the realm of economics. It became a narrative about identity, ambition, and collective transformation. It inspired leaders, entrepreneurs, scientists, and youth across the continent, proving that Africa could achieve industrial feats once considered unimaginable. And as the world watched, one truth became undeniable: Africa's time had arrived. With its partnership with India, Burkina Faso had launched more than a pharmaceutical project. It had launched a movement that would redefine the meaning of global industry, a movement that would reshape how nations collaborate, a movement that would empower Africa to stand as a contributor, a competitor, and a leader. The global system had shifted. The future now included a new pharmaceutical powerhouse on the African continent, one built not through charity or dependency, but through strategy, determination, and a shared vision for a healthier, stronger, and more independent world. This was Africa's big leap, a leap into industrial power, a leap into global relevance, a leap into a future the world could no longer ignore. And the revolution had only just begun.